Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to begin at about 3:02, just giving everybody a couple more minutes to get logged in. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we're going to get started. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We are live streaming this webinar on Zoom as well as on Facebook, and we're recording both on Zoom and Facebook as well. If you're joining us live on Facebook, please use the chat box on Facebook. And if you're joining us on Zoom, please use the chat box on Zoom. We would be happy to answer your questions as we go, as well as at the end. So please feel free to use both of those chat boxes to get your questions answered. Also, we will be doing a poll at the end, so if you don't mind spending a few minutes at the end to answer some questions, that would be great. We greatly appreciate that. We're welcoming today the we're welcoming Vocational Rehabilitation today in the Division of the Blind and Visually Impaired as well. And they're going to discuss a little bit about the things that they're doing and how it might be looking differently during COVID-19 and as we transition into summer programming as well as fall programming. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our four panelists, and welcome and thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. We're really excited to be here with you all today. I'm Libby Stone-Sterling. I'm the Director of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, and today I have with me.
Hi, I'm Brenda Drummond from the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Thank you for inviting me.
And oh, sorry, Judy. I can't see you.
Say, I'm the other Brenda, if you see that up there, but I'm Judy Wolfe, who's not tech savvy and logged in using Brenda's info. My name is Judy Wolfe. I work for the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and I'm a regional director in the southern and western part of the state. Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Fenderson, and I'm the Assistant Director for Division of Vocational Rehabilitation.
Great. So let's get started, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. I know Dylan is working his magic on the chat box, so if there are questions as we go, we'll be happy to answer them. Okay, next slide. So just as we get into what are we going to talk about? Well, one, we want to let you know, as Carrie mentioned, what are the things that we're doing differently at the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation and Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired to serve our clients during this pandemic time. And we know we've heard from a lot of parents and family members that there are concerns about connecting with services. So we're happy to talk with you about that. We also want to talk to you about some exciting new initiatives that we have going on things that are either new programs or things that we've changed so that we're able to offer them virtually. And I think you'll be excited to see them. We also want to tell you about new ways to apply for services. We have some new technology that's going to make applying for VR and DBBI services even easier. And of course, as Carrie also mentioned, we want to talk about summer program. It's hard to believe, but we know summer will be coming, and we're planning lots of things, both virtual and hopefully in person, that we'll like to share with you. And then, of course, always your questions and answers as we wrap up. The next slide. So I want to start, and I know Brenda will jump in too, but as many of you know, around the middle of the month of March, the career centers where we have our offices closed to the public. So we remained working and serving clients, but we were no longer able to have clients come into the career centers and meet with them there. And then, of course, at the end of the month of March, the governor issued her Stay Healthy at Home order, and she put that in place for the following Monday. And we moved very quickly. We already had some staff that had started to work remotely, and we had, you know, thankfully, cell phones and laptops and remote access. And pretty quickly, we moved our staff from being all office-based to out into the community. And that process happened pretty seamlessly. We had some people that needed some additional technology, but I think it went pretty well. What would you say, Brenda, in terms of getting your staff out?
Yeah, I thought that, you know, talking to other states, they weren't as prepared, I didn't think, as we were to be able to move to that remote, because we did all have cell phones, we all had computers that were able to use the remote, and we did it pretty seamlessly. And then we were still able to set up so that we have at least one staff person going into the office to check mail and make sure everybody's still getting their mail sent to them as they work from home.
Great. And, you know, really in terms of services, we've been able to continue all of the services in terms of taking applications, as you said, Brenda, getting those applications, whether they came in on the mail or were sent via email, processing applications, conducting intakes of new clients over the telephone or via video conferencing. I think we all across the state are probably had our nearly our fill of video conferencing. We've tried every system there is. We certainly have had Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Business Skype. But, you know, quite honestly, it's gone very well. And I think we've been able to connect with a lot of our clients, even some who maybe didn't have the technology. We've been able to find ways, whether it's via the phone or sending things in the mail, making sure that we're able to get them the services that they need and connect with them in the way that's worked best. And, you know, we're really pleased that services are continuing to be provided and that we're staying connected, and we're going to share with you some examples of that as we go forward. We've heard recently, of course, that Governor Mills extended the stay-at-home order to work remotely for state employees through May, and that's our plan. We'll continue work remotely, and then we'll certainly be paying attention to when that's lifted and when we can begin to transition back to the office. But we will continue to share updates. We're doing Thursday calls, which I didn't put in the slides, but we are doing regular Thursday calls in the afternoon that we've just switched over to Zoom that are public meetings. And I'll share that information with Carrie, and she can also get it out to you all. But that's another opportunity to hear updates from VR and for the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Brenda, are there other pieces you would add before we go on?
I think mine are into the next slide.
Great, we'll move on to the next slide.
Libby, just a quick question and a comment. If you want to share the link to your meetings in the chat box.
Yep, I'll add it while,
that'd be great.
Brenda is.
Because that'll get recorded as well, and people will have the opportunity to see it when they're viewing the recorded webinar. Okay. And second, as you've been doing applications, processing applications and processing intakes, Have there been any circumstances where you're running into where individuals might not have complete assessments that you need in order to qualify for services? And if so, how are you addressing that?
That's a great question, Carrie. I'll start, and Brenda may have some specific pieces to add. What we're really asking our staff to do is to use the best information that they have, knowing that it may be incomplete at this time. So not to hold up making people eligible, but to use the information we have. And let's say, for example, if we know somebody is receiving special education services, we can go ahead and find them eligible and then complete the rest of the information as we're able to receive it, because we know that it's hard to get records right now in some situations, and we don't want that to negatively hold up clients.
Yeah, I would just say that staff are just being as creative as they can, and we're figuring out new ways every day to get the information that we need.
Great, so I think we can go on to the next slide. And yeah, there we go.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, please.
So for DBVI, a lot of it was simply moving to virtual. We provide education services for blind and visually impaired children, and we contract out to Catholic Charities Maine, and they work with students, kiddos from birth to 20. So I want to just tell you some of the creative ideas that they have been doing, and then move on to the vocational rehabilitation program. They're still working on all the services within their IEPs. They're able to do those virtually or come up with another solution. Again, it's so individual because every kid, every student is different. They've really gone from, their challenge has been, they've gone from hands-on to this virtual learning, and they've really found that it's been a challenge, but they've risen to that challenge. They're finding that parents are becoming more involved because now the students are at home. One of the programs that they've implemented is what they call a read aloud, and it's for like mostly 4th and 5th graders, although they're getting interest from other students in the higher grades or lower grades, so they're inviting them in as well. And what they're doing is they're working on chapter books, and students they're doing this one through a conference call rather than Zoom, because they're finding at that age, it's just easier for them to control it and have them reading through the conference call. So they're taking turns reading, and Catholic Charities has been told that parents will actually, sit around with them and listen to them read, get a blanket, put the blanket over, and have a cup of hot chocolate. So it's barely been a parent involvement. They also have a couple times a week, they do a read aloud with the younger students, anywhere from kindergarten up through 3rd grade, maybe with a few exceptions. And that one they do on Zoom, but they control the mute so that the person that's actually reading isn't, overrun by the other voices. And they're, able to show the pictures, because a lot of them are picture books because they're younger grades, right over the Zoom. But they also, both of these groups, they take time at the end to actually just have some fun time and to do some network, because it gives the students an opportunity to see each other because they're not seeing each other. So they really need that, that interaction with each other and the routine of doing this same program at the same time every week. They're able to still doing Braille lessons, working on math. Some of them send the material out ahead of time, and some of them just work through the virtual lessons. And then our blindness rehabilitation specialists are still connecting with the TVIs in the schools through Zoom or whatever, as Libby said, whatever mode that they are used to. Skype or Teams is a new one we've used a lot. And then our VR counselors are still doing, as Libby had said on the other slide, all of the same things: guidance and counseling, virtual guidance and counseling, telecounseling, they're calling it. Continuing with all their meetings, they're learning what techniques the clients use. It's really been an eye-opener for the counselors as far as getting a much better understanding of the client's technology skills and really having to work around those. Still doing all the applications, eligibilities, plans, referrals, mock interviews, interviewing on the Zoom. Some of them are working on self-employment plans with their clients, and they're still doing a lot of professional development through the Zoom. Some of the other ones that I wanted to talk about, or actually I'm going to turn that part over to Judy, the expanded core curriculum that they're doing via Zoom, and the virtual lessons, the O&M and the orientation mobility and the vision rehabilitation therapist, how they're able to do those lessons on Zoom, which has been a challenge. You want to talk about those, Jude?
Just a little. Expanded core curriculum is these disability-specific skills that blind and low vision students need in addition to core academics. So that would be like orientation and mobility, which is learning to travel around safely and know where you are in space. Maybe technology, access to technology, independent living skills, adaptive ways of doing things. We have generally had, we have after school programs for these classes called after school ECC for expanded core curriculum that we've changed recently to pre-ETS because they really fall into the area of pre-employment skills. And there's statewide after school programs in pockets of areas, but the largest one is in the Lewiston area, and it's a collaboration between the teachers of the visually impaired from Catholic Charities, the vision rehab specialists from the IRIS network, and then our voc rehab counselors and our orientation and mobility specialists from the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And so what they do generally this year, every year is a little different. This year, what they were doing was twice a month, they got together on the early release days on Wednesdays during a month. And the first week, excuse me, they would go to a company. They were supposed to go in March, for example, to a bread company. I forgot the name of which one it was in Lewiston. They were going to go to the bread company, get a tour. It was Country Kitchen. Get a tour, learn how to make the bread. They learn about jobs. You know, they get a tour, and then the next part of that lesson is learning how to get there with the orientation and mobility specialist. So they might take a bus. They might learn how to Uber. They might walk, but they'd have to use a map. So there's all kinds of skills thrown into that. And then the next lesson the following week would be that they would meet at sometimes Lewiston High School, sometimes the Lewiston Career Center, and they would make bread. That would be the next lesson would be, okay, now how are we going to do this and put into action using the skills, the adaptive skills that you need in order to produce this bread. Another activity would have been they went to Home Depot and they learned about tools and how to use tools, and then they came back and developed little kits. But anyway, since we couldn't meet March, April, and May, what they're doing now is they turned it into a virtual program and invited students statewide, and they're doing like a gardening club. So they're incorporating the pre-ET schools, work readiness skills. They're starting from the seed, they're using vegetable remains, and they're seeing what sprouts and they need every week, and they're talking about what they're doing, and they're having a blind and visually impaired person who does a lot of farming talk to them. And then the next step, hopefully, as we get into our next phase, maybe in June with the state, is that people would actually be going outside and they might be planting. And so that's one thing we're doing for that program. And then our virtual lessons, our orientation and mobility instructors generally work with people outside their home, in the school, in the community, and at a workplace. And it's a very hands-on kind of learning. So what they've done, they've been very creative, and they've come up with virtual lessons to teach things like concepts. One of the things that came up recently for us in learning about what our students were doing on their virtual lessons is we realized, especially the ones with no vision, were positioning cameras in awkward ways or bouncing around and not having the camera in the right place. So talking about positioning, that whole concept of what that looks like to a person looking at a screen. Other lessons they've done, there is actually a dog guide school that is doing a virtual camp. So they have them participating in the camp lessons, and then the orientation and mobility instructor meets with a student to talk about that. They have done some intakes this way by watching a student with a family member. In one case, a family, I think a little student, only a second grader, the mom used her FaceTime to follow the child so that the orientation and mobility instructor could get some good information. And then the instructor was able to give the mom some suggestions and advice. And it turned out that that mom was doing a lot of extra support that the student didn't need. And so it was a really nice way to actually provide a service. So those are the kinds of things we're doing in virtual lessons. The vision rehab therapists are people specialists who work with our students and adults and teaching them independent living skills. And again, they usually go into the home. So they're doing the same sorts of things as the orientation and mobility instructor. They're trying to come up with ways to discuss safety in the kitchen. How do you do things when you can't see? And our instructors are getting a good lesson on how to do things this way, actually. So
some positives coming out of it for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, Sam.
Okay. So as our VR counselors were transitioning into working at home, the next step was thinking about how can we deliver services seamlessly and make it fun and interactive with our youth. So we were very fortunate to already have had an established relationship with a website called the Virtual Job Shadow. And the Virtual Job Shadow is a web-based, interactive, intuitive, easy to navigate website that's designed for researching careers. It's designed for youth, and it's also designed for adults to look at job descriptions, to tie in what education may need or training you may need in order to pursue that position. So there are 3 functions to the Virtual Job Shadow, and they're listed here on the slide. And they're broken out into career and interest assessments, job shadows, and career advice videos. And I will say that there are over 1,000 professionally done videos of particular people working in certain careers. And there's also a piece that's called the Flex Lessons. And this is where our counselors really have taken advantage of using this virtual job shadow and combining activities and lessons that were developed in-house within VR. So before I go into the actual website, we'll just click on that YouTube link so you can get a quick couple of minute description. I'm not hearing anything. Carrie, you
can't hear it?
Me? I can't hear it.
All right, hold on. It could be because I have my earbuds in.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me see if that works and restart it. Better?
Yep. Maybe it's not going to work out.
Is it hard to hear?
Yeah, it's really hard to hear.
Okay.
So I can, when I go into it, I can explain it a little bit more.
And I can put the YouTube link in the chat box.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
that's a good idea.
And people can view it.
And it's just, you know, like it's a 1.5-minute video of just a little clip of the videos. But what the beauty of the virtual job shadow is that it can be tailored to the individual or the student that the VR counselor is working with. So the VR counselor is able to have teachers or to support a family member with the student and going through the website. And there are specific tools that the VR counselor can guide the student to use and have them complete particular assessments that are within the virtual job shadow itself, or the VR counselor can add any tools or assessments or information that they want to within the virtual job shadow. What's also nice about it is that not only can it be for one-on-one, but it can also be for a group. So you can come up with, our staff have come up with a curriculum that a group of students or a group of adults would go through and complete these activities and then have interaction, guidance, and counseling with their VR counselors. So what's happening is that it's a neat website, it's fun, it's new, it's updated for our youth, and they're continuously adding new components to it. So they're listening to feedback from our counselors about what maybe is missing for videos, or let's hope that we can get a video on a certain occupation. And the flexibility of being able to create your own lesson and incorporating and including family members perhaps, or teachers that can also interact with the students. So Carrie, can I share my screen?
Yep.
Okay. It says I cannot start share screen while the other participant is sharing.
Try again. I just stopped sharing mine, so we might have just have hit it at the same time.
There we go. Okay, share. So hopefully now you are seeing a virtual job shadow website.
Yeah.
Nods of heads. Okay, great. So basically, when a VR counselor is working with a student or a group of students, they're going to assign a login information to the student. So this, what you're seeing, the student would not see this particular screen. When they log in, they will get, you know, welcome to their name, and it will be tailored to the student's perspective. What you can do then is really you can look at careers. So we can go into Career Central, and I'll show you a quick clip so that you'll get to see what we missed in the YouTube video. So basically what will happen is you can look for any particular type of job or occupations, or you can look through as a cluster. So is it something that you're interested in becoming a teacher, or hospitality and tourism? So they have thousands of videos, like I said. So let's go into hospitality and tourism. So then there's going to be a list of jobs that you can watch. And if there's a little icon like this, then there's a video that you can watch it. So let's go into the helicopter pilot. Maybe. And why isn't it showing? Oh, well, isn't this wonderful? Why does this always happen? Let's, very odd that it's not showing me the video.
It's technology.
Oh, at its best. Yeah, and none of them are working. Well, isn't that good? Okay, well, basically, if we were able to go into one of these, it would show a video of someone performing the job, and it would describe what the job entails are, like what are the responsibilities? What are the hours? What's it like? You know, besides reading the job description, what is it really the day-to-day activities of this particular job? And so someone will be talking to you and describing the job from person that is doing the job. And it's really nicely choreographed. They're very professionally done. So a student can go in and really just go and look at careers, or you can narrow it down for them and look for certain cluster of careers or industry of careers. And then they can, if they heart the career here, they can add it to their career list. So they're building their own profile so that they can keep, you know, I'm really interested in being a plumber. They can watch the video, they heart it, and then that will go automatically into their profile. So then they can start collecting jobs so that they can talk with the VR counselor, family member, or teacher about, well, this is what I liked, and this is why I, you know, maybe some features that I liked of it. And then they can really have that discussion about that particular job. Then what they can do is they can link into colleges or training. So when a student goes into it, it will automatically pull up colleges that are in the state of Maine. But they can look at colleges outside of Maine as well, but it will just automatically start with Maine. So if you are interested in the plumbing, then you can put the industry in for plumbing. Let me just go to colleges and hopefully this will work. So we can look for majors. I'm just looking down. Let's just go with social sciences, and it will look, didn't link up with Maine, but it will link up with any college or university that's associated with that degree program. So again, you can heart the college or the community college, the university, and it will keep in their profile. So again, you can work with your VR counselor on the pluses and minuses of this particular college. You can look at the size of the college. You can look at the actual program, what's an entail, the cost of the program. So it's a really nice link so that you can compare. They also have a job search board. So if your student is really wanting to look for a particular job in an area, it will pull up the local listings of the particular job in that area. So right now I'm just pulling up jobs from Lewiston, Maine. So again, if you're looking at some paid work experiences or you're looking for a summer job, they also have an internship search board if you're thinking about an internship that's associated with college perhaps. Again, you can like this, you can start comparing in your portfolio about the jobs and the opportunities that are out in particular areas of the state. You can also think about, well, maybe I want to move down to Florida. You know, you can put the location to wherever your plans are.
Samantha, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Kathy Adams said these look great. I'll be interested in looking at some of these. She's asking, do they also show how the job could possibly be adapted for a person with a disability?
They do talk about that. So there are some career advice videos, and that is really where the guidance and counseling comes in from the VR counselor, because it doesn't go into great detail on that, Kathy. So that's where the portfolio that the person creates, then that initiates the conversation with the VR counselor, their education team, about what measures do you need to take when you're in high school to achieve this goal, and doing all of that research, but then also looking at, okay, what may be the accommodations that we need to look at, and really specifically to individualize it to the person's disability. So that definitely does fall on the heavy part onto the VR counselor to do that piece.
Kathy says, thank you. And then another quick question is there a fee to use a virtual job site?
There is a fee. Both DBVI and DVR have a contract with Striven Media, who manages this website, and it's really based on, they call it seats, so it's a seat per person, But the nice part about this website is if the student or the adult is finished using their seat, you can download all of their information and you can either print it or you can keep it on the computer, and that frees up the seat so somebody else is able to use it. So the seat really is available for your contracted period, but multiple people can use the seat.
So VR has a contract for so many seats and pays for the seat. If you are receiving services through VR, it doesn't become the responsibility of the individual receiving the services to pay the fee.
Correct, it's a VR, yes.
Great, thank you.
No problem. Another nice feature about the virtual job shadow is that there are assessments. So a lot of our VR counselors will start with, when they're working with students, are assessments. Like, let's identify what your interests are. Where do we get a start on looking at what videos maybe or job shadows you want to take a look at? So there are built into the virtual job shadow, there are several assessments that you can take, and they'll link you right to those assessments. They'll upload this into your profile so you can go back and look at it. Also, like I added before, the VR counselor can add other assessments into the virtual job shadow that the person can do. So it could be a pictorial assessment, it could be whatever is tailored to that individual. So that they would go in, complete this assessment, and they would get their results logged in. So right now there are 4 assessments there, and it links to other websites that house other assessments.
So during this time, are you guys finding it especially difficult to match individuals with paid work experiences for the summer? Or are we, right now, obviously there's not any paid experiences going on because nobody can work. But moving forward, how are you sort of working with VR counselors to address that with individuals who might have had something lined up for the summer or was looking to get something lined up and we're just unsure as to how to move forward?
So Carrie, we will pretty soon come to some slides about summer work. So we'll just pause that question for a minute. And
awesome, thank you.
Okay. So they have a resume builder in here. And one thing that's nice about the resume builder is that it's interactive. So if the student goes in, tries to build a resume, but they get stuck or they have a question, there are information bubbles that they could go to. So it's what this question mark is, like, what do I put in this box? And I obviously kind of auto-populated some information, but you just build it line by line, which is nice because it breaks it down. So it's not, here's a blank page on Word document, let's start doing your resume. So it breaks it down. It has the little bubble marks where if you have a question or if you get stuck, you can always come back to the VR counselor and you can work together. The VR counselor and the student can be in their portal at the same time. So that's a really nice added feature as well. So there's the resume builder. And then you start really thinking about, what are my plans? What are my plans for the next, 2 years, 5 years, or after? So they really look at, what are you thinking about doing? Are you thinking of college? Are you thinking of on-the-job training? Or what are the options that you're looking at? And it will bring all of your material that you've saved into, your school options. And then you can prioritize, what's my first choice, second choice, third choice. And again, for your career choices.
This looks like a great tool that can be used in transition planning. Does the VR counselor really help schools to be able to pull information into a transition plan?
Yes, this is certainly something that can be coordinated. And we've had, the virtual job shadow has been active with some particular regions as a pilot program because we wanted to test to see what really this website could do. And counselors are enjoying it. The feedback from students is that they're enjoying it. And all of the information that you develop here, that can be information for the transition plan, the VR employment plan, and really kind of look at what I need to do in high school in order to prepare myself for next steps. So it's
Are you
really,
getting feedback from schools as well as part of the pilot to see if they find it helpful?
yes, we have had some teachers get involved as well, so they become an administrator for the program, and they're finding that it being web-based helps, because a lot of the students, because of their age, grew up with technology. This is what they're comfortable with. This is what they know, and it's very easy to navigate around this website.
That's
But it's
great,
always
thank you.
nice to couple it with the guidance of the VR counselor
Yeah.
on that one-on-one session. So that always happens too. It's not isolated by itself. It's always in conjunction with something else.
Great.
I wish I could show a job. That's unfortunate, but I'm not quite sure what happened. I'm gonna try one more time. Well, maybe we can do that YouTube, just so that you can get a good snippet of it. So before I leave the virtual job shadow, are there any other questions?
I don't see anything popping up. Oh, right now, do you have any, Ben Jones asked, do you have any numbers of how successful virtual job shadow has been in resulting in placements?
As far as job placements, I'd have to look. I don't know offhand. This has been active in certain territories for the last year. So we use this for students that are 2 years or perhaps a year out of graduation. So I think it might be too early to get those numbers, but we certainly something that we can definitely track.
Great, and I don't see any other questions popping up right now.
Okay, so we'll stop sharing and get back to the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Okay, and the next slide, please. So the other product that the counselors have really been working on hard is the virtual career exploration workshop and the transition career exploration workshop. So again, we were very fortunate to have already established a career exploration workshop, a set of core activities that were already established, but they were in-house. So usually adults would come to the Career Center, or we would do these activities out in the school. So now the fact that we have to look at how do we deliver this virtually. So we incorporated a lot of the virtual job shadow, which we just went through, but it's not necessarily the only way that we can deliver a career exploration workshop. But again, this is can be offered individually one-on-one, or it can be offered to a group of people. We just had, we started phase 1 with the adults a couple of weeks ago, and we're limiting it to about 5 people just because it can get very complicated when you have more than that through Zoom. But it's a combination of Zoom with a CEW facilitator and a VR counselor as a co-facilitator. And the Zoom activity is kind of like that icebreaker, getting to introduction for the group members, and then kind of talking about what you'll be doing over the course of the couple of days. Excuse me. Then the individuals would go separate, you know, and the Zoom meeting would still be on the entire time, and the counselors would be available for anybody to come back and pop in and ask any questions if they're struggling with the virtual job shadow, or if they have any questions about the activities. But then they would have the time to complete all the activities and then come back together, reconvene as a group, and talk through how did that activity go, what were the results of the activity, and that's where the VR counselors really can provide that guidance and counseling. Again, what's nice about this is it's flexible. You can tailor it to the individuals that are in your group. It's wonderful if we have 1 student or 2 adults up in Bangor, we have 2 in Portland and 3 in Lewiston, we can combine and do 1 workshop. You know, so that person up in Bangor, we don't have to wait to other people to come and make a group activity, or they can do it one-on-one, depending on the comfort of the person.
A question, how does VR assess and serve students with disabilities who are from non-English language groups like Arabic, Spanish, Syrian, etc.?
So we had initiated an in-person pre-COVID-19. We had initiated a career exploration workshop for individuals of non-English language, and we had interpreters that were available to assist in delivering the materials. So it's definitely something that we're looking at, just like when we provide the career exploration now, we offer interpreters for both for CART and for those who need sign language interpreters. So again, it's really individualized to the person, and the VR counselor and the student, youth, family members can really decide what's the best avenue. Is it a group virtual CEW, or is it something that we can do one-on-one? What we've also done is complemented the virtual piece by also including mailings or a packet of information, because a lot of us being virtual may not be the best learning modality for us. Maybe we do need that paper product in front of us. So again, it's the VR counselor really identifying the participants' interests, their preferences, and making sure that we're meeting all of those needs. Next slide, please. So this screen is an example of a flex lesson which is incorporated into the virtual job shadow. So you can see on the left under progress, there's an introduction, and then there are the assignments that the individual would take. And the VR counselor or the CEW facilitator are able to see the flow and what people have finished and accomplished because they'll need to submit their work, so that they can be available to answer any questions or to help move the person along if they're struggling for whatever reason. So there are a lot of other ways to identify, maybe this isn't the best learning modality for them, let's try something else. But it's can be very interactive, and again, the Zoom session is open. It's available the entire time from 9 to 4 for the person to come back and ask any questions. So again, this is what the individual would see, and then they would click into each of these circles and complete that task, and then move on to the next. So in continuation of the virtual career exploration workshop, the team really felt that, you know, because there could be a block of time where businesses aren't open, we don't want to end and then wait for that time period. We don't want to lose the momentum of people completing all of the career exploration workshop. We wanted to keep that motivation going. So staff came up with a job club. And so the job club is the next possible step. It doesn't mean that everybody will participate in the job club, but the hope is, excuse me, that it's a 14-week program that will follow along with an alternate schedule. For example, the first week will include a topic such as resume writing or job search tools or any of the others that are listed on the PowerPoint. Then the alternate week, there would be a follow-up on that, answer any questions. What have you done this week? What's your progress? And the hope is that as people start looking at jobs, applying for jobs, or interviewing for jobs, they're gonna come back to the job club group and talk about their experiences and share that with the others. And so that is hopefully will be motivating to others and to help move along the process so we don't lose that momentum. So right now this is being piloted with our adults. It actually starts tomorrow. We're hoping to have 15 people take part of the job club. And because it's 14 weeks, we're hoping to follow the progression of what the person, what they're doing in their job search. And of course, you know, under the next 4 weeks, only so many limited businesses are open, but we do feel that we just want to keep that motivation, and we want to keep it on the priority of the mind that we are going to get back to normal, but we need to start now. We can't wait until we get back to normal and then try. Let's get prepared. Let's do what we can now so that we can really move forward when we do fully reopen. So the Job Club, again, like I said, is starting tomorrow. Those are the topic areas that on the PowerPoint that we're addressing. We'll look at, you know, transition students, you know, how it looks a little different, I'm sure, from the topic areas that we have here, and make it more applicable for the transition students. But the hope is that we will continue with that. And this is done by a teleconference. It is not done by Zoom. So we'll see how that goes as well. But everything we're doing, you know, we're putting it out there, and we're coming back as a team and saying what worked, what didn't work, what are we missing, what do we need to add. We're really revising it as we go. Staff are really getting involved. You know, we have a lot of counselors who haven't been involved in maybe the first pilot, but they're listening in and they're incorporating it and taking it into their regions. So there's a lot of staff that are working together that normally wouldn't work together. We've also noticed an increase in family involvement. Kids are home, families are involved, VR counselors are, and it's a great positive out of that. The VR counselors are having much more conversations with the family members. All right, I feel like I've been talking forever, so here we go. The next slide is apprenticeship. So VR has partnered with the Maine Apprenticeship program, also through the Maine Department of Labor. We started about a year ago, and this pilot was isolated to a particular region, and it was for a particular industry. It was hospitality. And our hope is that there were very limited exposure to apprenticeship program. We didn't have a lot of people take advantage of the apprenticeship program, but we felt that there has been a lot of emphasis put on as an option to do an apprenticeship. And it's ideal for students who are close to graduating and are thinking about, I want to work, I need to earn money, but at the same time, I do want to take some classes or increase my educational opportunities. The apprenticeship is a great program for that to happen. You can get the youth engaged with the employer early on. They're able to start earning a paycheck at the same time as looking at taking some classes, and then utilizing what they're learning in the classroom and applying it directly in the work site, and having that natural support there to be able to field any questions. So we have, over the last year, have had an increase in apprenticeship opportunities with our VR clients, including a student who graduated last year and is now in a welding apprenticeship. And there are many more people that are kind of in the stages, beginning stages of talking about apprenticeship. And that's it for that slide.
So thank you, Sam. You can give your voice a rest for 1 minute. Some folks have already seen this next slide. This is a financial literacy tool that we worked on with Maine Medical Centers, Department of Vocational Services. And you'll see on the right, there's a picture of what it looks like, the cover of the curriculum, and the website is there. It's on our website. It's free to use. There's a number of different great programs that you can click in, lots of good tools, lots of lessons. We're happy to have anybody use it. We can do it in conjunction, certainly with families or case managers, or folks can just go in and access it and do it together. A teacher can do any of the activities with a class, or certainly families can do it at home. And we recognize that as more and more young people were working, they needed to know, okay, now what am I going to do with that paycheck? And so this is a great opportunity to think about, how do you build credit? How do you save for the future? And what we did with Maine Medical Center was they really went through and looked at all the different resources, and there's tons out there, to say, what are the things that we know from our experience are going to be the most helpful for young people with disabilities? What works for us here in Maine? What makes sense? And what are the resources that are kind of the best of the best? So this is a curated resource, if we could say, of some of the best curricula that's out there. So we absolutely invite anybody to use this, to click on, and certainly to go to our website for more information as well. So I also want to mention to you, and I'm glad Dylan is on here too, that we continue to move forward with our youth advisory group, which is a group that we put together, started last summer. Really a number of different state agencies, along with our partners at Maine Parent Federation and Center for Community Inclusion and Disability Studies, Maine site, to really look at how we could include the voice of youth while we're making policies and practices that are affecting them. We know that young people have a lot to say, and we really want to make sure that young people with disabilities particularly have a place to share their feedback, to share what's important to them. And so we've been getting started with this. We had a great event last summer. We brought a group together at Central Maine Community College. We got a lot of good feedback, a lot of good ideas, but we really want to move forward. So we're absolutely recruiting new youth members. Dylan is working with us on this, as are many others, and we're happy to certainly, if there's any parents who are thinking that they have a young person who might be appropriate or might have an interest in being part of a group that's giving feedback. We're looking for folks around the state, and certainly with a wide range of disabilities. You don't need to have experience, but you definitely, if you're interested in giving your feedback and sharing your ideas, we're absolutely excited to have you join us. So I just want to make a little plug for that as we go on.
I would just also add to that, Libby, tomorrow, Dylan at 3 p.m. is doing the self-advocacy workshop. We're putting it on for parents and professionals just so that you can get an idea as to what that looks like. And one of our poll questions tomorrow would be, would you feel like that would be helpful for your child to receive virtually? But that's some of the work that will give you a sort of view of some of the work that Dylan does do with these youth advocacy members, is building their own voice to help them advocate and helping them to find their role and how to advocate for themselves, but also as a group. So tomorrow's webinar would be a good sneak peek of kind of the work that Dylan does.
Perfect. Great, thank you. So now I just want to talk a little bit and share a little bit of information about applying for services. In the past, oftentimes people would come in and drop off an application in the Career Center, or we certainly would see folks at schools and applications would be dropped off there. And obviously those things aren't happening right now. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that on the DBR and DBVI websites, there is an application that can be downloaded, and it can be printed off, filled in, and submitted. And can we go back for just, yeah. And if you're, it can be sent in certainly to your local office, and the list of the local offices you'll see is available on our website too. And there's also a number to call if you have any questions. So that's kind of the old school of being able to get a paper application and complete it. But on the next slide, I want to tell you about something that's super, super exciting. And this is a new website called Work Services, that it's an online portal that was developed in conjunction with the Bureau of Employment Services, who most of you would associate with the career centers, and also Adult Ed. And it's a place where a person who's interested in going in and figuring out where they might be able to access resources around education and training and employment, it's kind of a one-stop where they could go in and learn more. And one of the things that we find oftentimes is that people don't know where to start. and they don't know the resources that are out there, and it can be very confusing. So this new website is a great place. It is just launching. We have some promo materials that are being developed that are going to be up on our websites, the 3 agencies that are involved, soon. And it's not just for youth, it's certainly for adult population as well. But I did want to share it today because it is something that is brand new. Most people have not had a chance to access it. You go into the website, as you see here, the workservices.maine.gov. Go into the website, you put in information about yourself, you register very briefly with some information, and you certainly indicate if you are unemployed, underemployed, looking for training. And then based on your answers about where you live and what you're interested in, including whether or not you think you'll need some disability-related resources, it directs you to a lot of behind-the-scenes resources that are tailored just for you based on the way that you answered questions. It's really a fantastic way for people that have said, gee, I don't know what to ask for, so I don't know that I've been able to access the right programs that I might be might have a need for or that are appropriate for me. So this is going to be a great option. But the other part that's really exciting is that you can apply for VR services through this portal. So when you go in and register, you can, through the way that you're answering the questions, it will ask you if you want to apply for VR services either through the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation or through the Division for the Blind and Impaired. And you go in, you can complete your application. Anybody who's ever done an application for VR services knows that it's a lot of questions. It can be time consuming. In this portal, you can go in, start to put information, save it, go out, come back. You can have somebody sit with you and work on it with you. So it could be a parent helping a youth, could be a case manager, whoever is a support person to you can be there to help you complete the application. And then the exciting thing is that once you hit submit, the application goes immediately right into our case management system. So that part is really exciting for us. It doesn't have to get sent out in the mail. A support staff doesn't have to enter it into the computer. It automatically goes into our system. And we think that that is going to be a lot quicker, and we're going to be able to serve people more effectively. It doesn't mean that everybody has to use this new portal, not at all. But we are very excited about it. This presentation is one of the very first public presentations where we're sharing information about the portal, but we think it's going to be an easier way for applications to come in and go directly into our system for processing. So we're excited about it. I'm happy to answer any questions about it, but I invite you to go in. There's both the Work Services portal site, and then on our side, on the rehab side, we have some specific directions around the VR application. So if you're interested in making application, you can go in there and find out more specific instructions, although I think you'll find that it's fairly intuitive when you get into it. And we'll have some promo videos and some additional information that will be up on our website soon to share more information about it as well. Okay, so summer, Brenda.
Okay, well, and some of this might not be news to you guys, for some of you on the phone, but so DBVI, every other year we do a college prep program. It allows a number of blind or visually impaired students to go learn the layout of the college campus without all the other students there, so they're not overwhelmed when they actually do go off to college. But in this college prep program, it's a 5-week program. So far it's been held at University of Maine in Orono. And they are involved in an entry-level college course, which is, it's designed for juniors and seniors in high school. So, it gives them something to look forward to, and they actually can take this course and get 3 credits for it. It gives them a chance to live in the dorms, eat in the cafeteria. They participate in daily learning labs. They just get to do everything you get to do on campus, along with you learn study requirements, you learn how much time you need to set aside to study, how much time to set aside for playtime. It just enhances their success when they go off to college later. They learn a variety of blindness specific skills. They get to do a work experience. We've tagged that onto that. There's a community service projects that they're involved with. And as we've done the program over the years, we've done recreational activities, but we've also tried to get feedback from students. And we've often been told that we try to do too much in the time frame. They need more downtime. So we always take that into consideration. The other piece with this is we have residential directors and RAs, residential assistants, and generally we find them within our pool of clients that have already gone through the program so that they can be mentors for other clients. So that's been a great experience for a lot of our clients as well. However, the sad news is we're going to be canceling this year because of the situation that we're in. But I did want to talk about it because I wanted anybody that might be a junior thinking about it for next year, because we are going to hold it next year if the world has some normalcy to it. I think I covered all those, so I'm ready for the next slide. Unless anybody has any questions on these. I love these programs. No Barriers is a program, brand new program that we're hoping to get off the ground this summer. We are looking at the end of the summer, so it's still a possibility. And we've never done it before, so it's going to be brand new. Michigan Blind ran it, and they had real great success. They focus on the pre-employment transition services for students. Like I said, it's one weekend program. They do a lot of career exploration and work readiness and a lot of self-advocacy. They're doing it through interactive activities and different group sessions. They explore and identify their interests, their passions, their potential. Then they try to identify role models and try to strive to achieve the characteristics that they see in their role models within themselves. They create a vision for how to live with a purpose. They do a lot of problem solving. They have like a climbing wall, so they do a lot of teamwork, just a lot of different activities. And we really think that the students will get a lot from it. So we're really hoping, keep your fingers crossed, that we'll be able to run it this summer. That's a new one for us. And so where we couldn't do the college prep program, we got thinking about what can we do? What is out there? So again, we're really focused on the pre-employment transition services. So this is through, let me get the name wrong here.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, there you go. It's through the Sky's the Limit communication, and it's called the ACE Academy. It's all online. It's 4 weeks after they do the initial, calling the student and getting information from them. Then it's four weeks. Here's what they focus on: the career exploration, the work readiness, and the self-advocacy. We've had this, well, there's 2 people, but one of the gentlemen we've had come and do training for us before. He's just fabulous. He's just a fabulous trainer. I want to show you this YouTube video. And then I'm going to have Judy talk about, she's actually been talking to David and talk about the actual specifics of the program. Again, this one's brand new for us. So we're really hoping that this is exciting. We have, to run it, we have it for students, and we're doing a separate one for adults. And we need at least 10 in each program. And we've been fortunate, and we've got 10. I think we're actually up to 12 in one side or the other.
We have more than we can take in both right now.
Right. So we're hoping that he'll let them all go into it without having to, to not be able to have to turn some people away is what we're really hoping. But if you want to run the YouTube video, David will actually talk about the program himself. Hopefully it works.
I'll give it another shot.
It didn't, oh. I can't understand it. Can you guys?
No, you can't hear it.
We could hear it, but we couldn't really understand him, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I posted the link in the chat box.
Okay. Yeah, so people can go in and look at it yourself. He's done it in a number of different states, and I know that there's a couple in New Jersey and Massachusetts that are also looking at him to run this program this summer. Well, we're starting in a couple weeks, but you want to go into the details, Jude?
Yeah, David Dinateris was actually the director of VR services in Pennsylvania a while back. So he has a really good understanding of transition and adult folk rehab. He did a training for us in December, and that's how we, as Brenda mentioned, that's how we got to know him. He has a company business called Sky's the Limit, and he does talks and programs and all kinds of things. And he and a partner that he has now have developed this programming for the summer, for virtual programming for a number of states. They usually go in person and do trainings at other times, but so we are, actually there's 3 programs. There's the career exploration, work readiness, and self-advocacy. We are doing work readiness for our first program starting, actually it's starting next week. He and his partner will be contacting our participants, the adult group and the pre-ETS group. And then what they do is they're professional coaches as well, like life coaches. So they're going to talk to them, do some assessment, and figure out where they're at, each student, and then they're going to do, like I said, the work readiness programs with each group at different times during the week, and they'll meet for 4 weeks. And the students and adults will have homework assignments. They're going to have capstone projects that they have to do in groups. It's a lot of group stuff. There'll be online discussions, through Zoom. We have one student who cannot join via Zoom, so we'll be joining by phone. But they'll also have speakers who are blind and visually impaired as well. So both David and his partner are blind. So it's got, I mean, the program is specifically for people who are blind and visually impaired, this particular model. And many times our students don't, because it's a low incidence disability, they don't have an opportunity to meet other people who are successfully employed who are blind or visually impaired. So this is going to be a great opportunity for them. And also for David and his partner to present the skills that are really necessary, the work readiness skills, which for our students very often is being able to navigate independently, having your technology skills being pretty good, seeing the importance of being able to get yourself dressed and look neat, looking at people when you're talking and making sure that your camera is positioned right and during a Zoom meeting, knowing how to shake hands, sort of some of that non-visual kinds of things that other people pick up incidentally all the time who have vision. So if this program goes well, we're going till I think we meet once a week until the second week in June, I think. And then if it goes well, we're going to be doing the other programs for it's a continuation, or people can just join. So we're excited about it. I wish you could have seen David's video. He's much better at presenting.
And the video
about it than I am. But it's very
the video is actually a recruitment video that he made for us to provide to the students.
Yes.
So when you see it, that was what it was designed for, and that's how we were able to get the 10 to 12 students who are interested.
Right, because that doesn't happen often for us.
Right.
Getting people interested in our programs.
So Here's the fingers crossed part of the presentation. I think that many people know the last few years we have run a number of summer work experience efforts around the state, both individual and in school-based programming. They've been extremely successful. We've had wonderful feedback from employers, from families, from the students themselves, from teachers who have seen the growth in young people that have participated. I originally thought we had about 250 students last summer who participated. And when I went back and saw the information, I saw that between our two divisions, it was actually closer to 300. And we are making all of those preparations now with the plan that we hope that we will be offering work experience in the community this summer. It may not start in July, it may not start until August. We will wait and see obviously when we get it all clear. And we'll also be being very mindful about the kinds of settings where we are setting up work experience. And if it works for some students around the state to participate in work experience this summer, we'll be thrilled. We know that obviously we have to be very mindful of the CDC and other recommendations from the governor, but we are moving ahead. We're doing planning sessions with the schools who are interested in setting up work experience programs, and we're certainly talking with young people individually. So our hope is that if at all possible, we will move forward, and the summer work experience program is almost always it's with wages that are paid through VR or DBVI, and we use a third-party payroll system, which in this case is Manpower, and young people are matched with really fun and interesting jobs in the community, oftentimes jobs that are typical summer jobs. We've always had some students at Funtown Splashtown. Now we've had a lot of disappointment at my house to hear that Funtown Splashtown is not going to be open for the summer. But we're also talking with employers that have businesses that are much more likely to be open, and that could include some state sites, it could include farms, it could include other outdoor kinds of settings where people aren't working close together. So we're continuing to move forward. Our hope is that we will be able to have paid work experience for many of the young people we work with. It's been a first paycheck. It's been an opportunity to make a minimum wage or higher, and it's been a great experience. So if it's something that is of interest to you, please keep in touch with the VR counselor, keep in touch with us. Our hope is that we will be able to run this program this summer.
Can I just add something on the DBVI side for that, Liv?
Please, yeah.
So the Business Enterprise Program is part of the DBVI VR program, and it's run by legally blind individuals in food service in state and federal municipal locations. And some of those locations include the parks. So in the governor's address and her executive order, she's allowing a lot of the parks to open. So there may be a possibility for summer work experience at some of the parks that we're running. Might be able to learn, it might be a cooking job, it might be cleaning, because they're going to have to be doing extra cleaning, we know, within the facility. It could be any number of things, but I just want to throw that out there because that could be, you know, DBVI clients, or it could be DVR clients. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, ours, something like that.
So we got a couple questions, or no, it's one question. It's from the same person. It's a case manager who works with an individual who has autism, is graduating or finished school in January, is ready to go to work, but is really struggling to get him to look for work because he's being very inflexible. He only wants one job. It seems like a lot of this information would be helpful for him. Does he need a VR counselor to access this? He's been denied adult services, so not really sure what is next with VR in terms of not having adult services. It's impacting his ability to work due to lack of access to transportation and community supports. They're in Western Maine, so supports are limited to start with.
So I would say we've had a really tremendous efforts around work experience, summer work in Western Maine. So I would definitely recommend to that family, if they're not already connected with VR, or to apply for VR services. And you don't need to have adult services in order to access VR services, and you don't need to have eligibility for Maine Care to access VR services. Sometimes that can be confusing, as adults and young people are hearing messages, you know, kind of on both sides about what do I need to do. And we didn't talk about eligibility, but most people who have a disability that interferes with their ability to get and maintain employment are likely to be eligible for our services. And there's certainly more information on the website about the specifics. But what we would recommend is, certainly if somebody has a known disability and they're having some challenges with going to work, to make application and talk with a VR counselor and find out more about how we could work together, for sure.
And follow-up question, would VR provide transportation to get to and from work?
Transportation is certainly something that we work on with individuals to figure out what's the best way, where's a great work location for them, what are the ways that they can line up transportation with our assistance. Absolutely, that's something that we talk about, for sure. So just to talk a little bit, I thought this was going to be a good setup for the next thing that I'm just going to mention, which is our Step Up program. And I didn't put a lot of bullets here, but Step Up is a program that VR based really on DBVI's college prep program and the success of that program. We were hearing a lot from families and from providers about the need for young people who are on the autism spectrum to get ready to go on to post-secondary education. And we heard that, we wanted to do something. So last summer we did a pilot program at the University of Maine. We partnered with our pals there at the Center for Community Inclusion and Disability Studies. We also worked with the Maine Autism Institute there on campus. And we had a great program, a 5-week residential program that included a 3-credit course. It included paid work experience on campus, living in the dorms, eating in the cafeteria, the things that Brenda mentioned around college prep, some social activities for the young people. And it really was a great pilot. We were very much looking forward to running a very similar but enhanced program in conjunction with DBVI this summer. Obviously, the way things are going, we are not able to offer that kind of a program, but we did not want to not offer anything. So we're going to be putting together, we're in the final stages right now of a virtual Step Up program. We'll be taking applications from around the state for interested. There's not any cost to young people to participate, as is the case with the rest of our services. But we won't have the component on campus, at least not in the way that we envisioned. We won't be able to offer a paid work experience in exactly the same way that we did last summer. But we will have a 3-credit online course. We will have seminars where the young people will work together and get ready for what college life is going to be like. We'll have some peer mentoring going on. We'll have some of the pieces that Sam showed you about the virtual job shadow and the virtual career exploration workshop that will be built into the curriculum. And I'll have a new flyer. I'm hoping maybe as soon as next week that we'll be able to go out to folks. I have a number of families who have contacted me, and case managers and others who are interested in Step Up. And we really just did not want to cancel it for the summer. So we're going to see how this works. We want to hold on to as many of the pieces as we can. And one of the parts that we really, really found helpful last year was how the young people came together and built some friendships. Some young people who maybe in their school district had not been able to build those kind of friendships, and we'll hope to be able to replicate some of those good pieces again this summer. So stay tuned for more information. And before I jump over to Sam to talk to you about the Goodwill programs that we're contracting with, I'll just also mention briefly that we are, our rehab counselors for the deaf are working very closely with the Department of Education and the staff at the Maine Educational Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I always want to make sure I get that correct. To put together a virtual program over 8 weeks this summer for students around the state who are deaf and hard of hearing, and with teaching them some of the skills to get ready for employment, thinking about moving on to college and so on. And this, again, was intended to be an in-person program. They've had to modify it and go to a virtual program, but we're still very excited about it. And as Brenda was saying, oftentimes low, or I guess that was Judy saying, that individuals who have low incidence disabilities like being deaf or hard of hearing may not know other people who have similar disabilities or who have been successful. And this is really a very targeted program that's being developed that will really allow them to build some disability-specific skills and to meet others who share a similar disability. So this is in the development stage right now, but we're really excited about it as well. And I'll turn next to Sam to talk about our Goodwill programming.
Libby, before you move on, are you going to be putting out any sort of written materials or additional information about the virtual program that you're developing for students who are deaf or hard of hearing? And
Yes.
Where can we find it?
Yes, you can certainly stay tuned for more information either through our team in VR. I know that MECDHH will also be having information, and Department of Education is also involved in developing it. So between those three sources, we will have more that will be coming out for sure.
Okay, so I'll move on to the Goodwill Pre-Employment Transition Services Program. We have contracted with Goodwill Workforce Services to provide what they call a boot camp, which essentially covers the required pre-employment activities. And it's usually done at the schools, and we're looking, most of the services have been provided in Central Maine at this point. But basically, students are identified through teachers or VR counselors, and they partake in the boot camp activities, which are generally in classroom, but we have been looking at how we can continue the classroom activities, but done virtually, so that we can finish off the school year. But we're basically looking at areas such as workplace readiness, instruction and self-advocacy, exploring training and post-secondary opportunities or educational opportunities, doing that early exploration of careers. So we're looking at utilizing the virtual job shadow as part of that. But then the next stage is the summer work experiences, the paid work experiences. And ultimately we'll be hopefully gearing up for that. Maybe June, July, August. At this point, we feel that even if we get 4 weeks worth of on-the-site job experience is better than none. So we're really anticipating that the students that have participated in this program will continue with at least some form of summer paid work experience. If not, then at least they'll have the opportunity to complete the boot camp, which is also the academic piece side of it. I also did manage to get a video on the virtual job shadow to work. So if at the end of the presentation, if you'd like to see it, I can share my screen and show it as well.
Sounds great. Just a general question. With the expected surge of new job openings, how will VR clients compete and be successful in getting some of those jobs?
Well, I think some of the things that you're hearing today are all of the preparation We haven't also really talked about it, but there are certainly VR clients and DBBI clients who are working right now and who are participating in a number of different, even if they're temporary jobs. We have some clients, of course, who are working. We have others who have been able to take some temporary assignments in different fields. That's going to give them a leg up when we do open up our economy. But we really want to make sure that folks have the skills that they need, that they have a current resume, that they're engaged with services, that they're able to do all of the work readiness pieces so that they are going to shine. And we didn't talk much about it, but we will in a couple of slides, just in terms of connecting with employers, because that's the other big piece for us, is that this is a time to connect with employers. Employers are hiring. I saw what the numbers were on the Maine job link of current open positions, and there's many, many positions. And we are absolutely reaching out to employers. We have business account managers in the southern part of the state. They were talking to me earlier this week about some great connections that they're making. TD Bank has been a long time partner with us, has some great things that they're working on. A number of other businesses, I don't want to list them all, but who have reached out to us to get some more information and to talk about connecting with our clients. And so we're certainly working through our community rehab providers as well, our contracted providers, who are also working out in the communities and working with businesses. So we're making sure that that groundwork is in place as the economy starts to open back up. And just before we leave the goodwill piece, I just wanted to mention too that Sam, you mentioned that these programs are in Central Maine, but specifically we have a program that's in the Belfast area that was really in response to parents saying, we'd like to see more services, more targeted services in the Belfast area. And then also down in the Thompson Brunswick area, which you wouldn't necessarily think, but that was another area that we had a specific request for additional services. And then lastly, we're going up to Somerset County with the Goodwill programming, and that's exciting, and also in response to some targeted need for additional programming in that area too. So I mentioned briefly that we are doing some other pieces with employers, and one of them is the progressive employment model that we have adapted from Vermont. It's been quite successful. A number of other states have now started doing progressive employment. But here in Maine, we focused on that 14 to 24 population, and it's really focused also on a dual customer. So what do employers need? And what does the young person need? And then how can we match them together? And it starts out with the idea that everybody is ready for something. So everybody is ready to start at some step on the career pathway. We know some young people that are super, super anxious. And to say, oh, tomorrow you're going to start a work experience is not going to work for them. They need to take some steps to build up to that. And progressive employment is one of the ways to do that. They could start with the informational interview. We've had some clients that just started by saying, I like to just drive by and see where the business is. And I mean, taking it very slow steps. We have a couple of videos about progressive employment that are on our website, and I would encourage anyone to check them out. It's really for individuals with a wide range of disabilities. And what we've found is that it's also a way to get young people more engaged early on. So come into VR and then kind of quickly get involved in an activity, get involved in something where you're learning more about what you might be good at. And we know that many young people with disabilities haven't had a lot of success, or they haven't had exposure to think about what they might be good at in terms of a career field. So we've seen some wonderful things built through progressive employment where somebody went in, they did an informational interview at an employer, they got talking with the employer, it was in an area of interest. And sometimes individuals who have very niche interests, as Carrie, you were kind of talking about before, who might who might have a particular interest that isn't a regular everyday kind of a job, and we're able to get make a connection with an employer, have them go in, learn something about the job. Maybe they're doing a job shadow. Maybe the employer gets to know them and says, you know what, why would you like to come back and do a paid work experience? And then sometimes those turn into regular employment opportunities. This has been a great model. So far, we started in Portland and Lewiston, and now it's moved up the highway to Augusta and Bangor, and we're seeing some very positive outcomes as a result. And I just want to also make a little plug for the Transition Work-Based Learning Model Demonstration Grant. This is a federally funded 5-year grant. We're now in year 4, partnering with Jobs for Maine grads and a number of other organizations. It's a research project in Augusta and Bangor that's really focused on how can we see what interventions make a difference for improving post-secondary education and employment goals for young people with disabilities. And it's done through 5 new JMG programs in the Bangor area that have focused on bringing in additional young people with disabilities into their programming. We have a rehab counselor who goes into those classrooms, and it actually is still virtually going into those classrooms now and participating. We've cross-trained JMG specialists across the state, so they have a much better understanding of how to work with young people with disabilities around employment, specifically through ACRE certification. So that's been exciting. We're really pleased with that partnership. And then we're also doing progressive employment as an intervention in Augusta and Bangor, and seeing lots of young people come in and do some really interesting work-based learning activities. We know that a paid work experience before high school graduation is one of the very best indicators of post-secondary success. So we want to continue to focus on that. So that brings us to the end. And I know we're all very happy to answer any questions now, or certainly at any time in the future.
So I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to give Samantha the opportunity to share again to see if she can get that video to play before I post to the poll. So hang on with us and let's see if we can get that to
Let's
play.
go for number 2 here.
And if she can do it, great. And then I'll post the poll after she
Okay.
plays
So
that.
here is the screen of, I just pulled 3 jobs, and I haven't gone in any of them because I didn't want to interrupt the presentation. So we'll just quickly play the bus operator, and let's hope it works.
Do you want to be on elements, or do you want to be in the office? Here at Tryman, we have all of them. Tryman is a great place to be right now. My name is Harold Milford Williams II. My job is a bus operator. I work for Tryman in Portland North. Tryman is a transportation service. We provide bus service and rail service for the public in our area. Thank you, sir. All right, sir. Second English. So what I do as a bus operator is a lot. First of all, pretty much a representative of the area, an ambassador of sorts. Also, I am a tour guide at times, and I am obviously a bus operator. Day to day, my responsibility is to be here on time, prepare my bus, and get people to their destination on time and safe. The requirements, you have to have been driving for at least 3 years. You have to be 21 years old. And after that, a clean driving record. You go to your DM and take the courses or read the book to get a class B permit, and then after that, Tryman takes care of everything else. They take care of the classes, the training, to get a commercial driver's license. You have to really be a person who understands that it's not all about you, and that it's about serving the public. Safety, on-time performance, all that will come. But you have to remind yourself, I'm a part of a team. Right now, we are having a short layover on the Hawthorne Bridge while the bridge goes up. coming this way. We're making room for them. We got a classroom of kids that's here with us, and they just study about bridges. We're good student that wants to look into a career in transportation. You like to drive, you like to travel, you like to move around. That's the biggest thing that you might want to ask yourself.
So I'll pause it there unless you want to continue watching, but that just gives you a snippet of it, a person doing the job and explaining what it entails and what education and what skill set one needs to have. So they're really, really helpful videos.
Cool. Thank you, Samantha. So we'll give you guys the opportunity to ask a few more questions. We'll hang out. I'm going to launch the poll right now. And if you would take a few minutes to fill that out, that would be great. Being federally funded, it's really important for us to be able to get feedback on these type of webinars that we're offering. And we'll hang out and give you a few minutes to finish that, as well as any other questions that you might want to add to the chat box. I don't see anything at this moment. I do want to thank everybody from Vocational Rehabilitation and Division of Blind and Visually Impaired for joining us today and putting together such a thorough presentation. We've gotten a lot of thumbs ups and gutter runs, but thank you, great information. So thank you all for taking the time to put this together and providing it. We're trying to make sure we cover our bases in this emergency and hitting on all the different departments that are affecting the individuals that we work with lives, and I really appreciate the time. I know it's time is cherished right now and our moments are few and far between, and I know there is Zoom fatigue, but unfortunately this is the method of which we're able to provide the information to everybody. So I do appreciate you all joining us. I learned a lot today myself, and I'm excited to be able to get it recorded and up on our website. We will have it immediately available to those of you who have Facebook accounts. After we stop sharing live on Facebook, the recorded video goes up live on Facebook, so you have the availability to get it there. We will also post the PowerPoint presentation with the recorded webinar on our website as well. If you go to our website and our online trading pages and you scroll to the bottom, our recorded webinars are there. We post the materials with them as well. So that should be posted in a few days, definitely by the end of this week. I don't see any other questions popping up at this point in time. And 94% of people have voted, or now we're at 100% of people have voted. So unless something pops up, I will give it a few more minutes, but we'll be ending the webinar in just a couple minutes. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you very much, Carrie, for having us here today. We're always happy to work with Maine Parent Federation and certainly to speak to families. We know this is a really stressful time for families, and we're thinking about that all the time in our programming, and certainly the connections, as Sam and others mentioned, around having more access to families while they're home. But we also know there's a lot of competing demands, and it is a challenging time. So we're happy to support, and we're happy to work with families both individually, certainly, and through the programs that we've talked about.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a silver lining, it has forced us all to think outside the box and make things much more accessible. So I'm hoping that that continues even after this emergency ends, because there has been some significant strides taken in accessibility. I don't see any other questions. So I think at this point we will end the webinar. And again, thank you all for participating.
Thank you,
and we'll
Kari.
see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan.
Thanks, guys.